The old grandfather clock struck midnight just as a tiny girl paused quietly in the doorway. Across the enormous bedroom, billionaire Benjamin Sterling lay perfectly still beneath a silk blanket, his breathing slow and steady, his eyes closed. To anyone watching, he looked deeply asleep. That was exactly what he wanted. Hidden beneath one eyelid, he watched the maid's 4-year-old daughter step softly into the room. She wasn't supposed to be there. The little girl hugged her worn stuffed rabbit against her chest, glanced toward Benjamin, and whispered so softly that even he almost missed it. "I'm sorry, but I have to help you." The words tightened something inside his chest. Before he could decide whether to end the test, the little girl walked to his bedside, reached beneath his pillow, and carefully pulled out a small black medicine bottle. She studied it for a moment. A look of concern crossed her face. She quietly shook her head. "No." She took a slow, steady breath and gently held the bottle with both hands. Benjamin's heart began to pound. She recognized it. But how? Before we continue, subscribe if you enjoy unforgettable stories like this. Give this video a like, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Benjamin Sterling had spent 40 years building an empire from nothing. Steel. Hotels. Shipping. Technology. Every newspaper called him brilliant. Every business rival called him ruthless. Yet none of them knew the loneliness waiting behind the gates of Sterling Manor. His wife had passed away 12 years earlier. His only son had disappeared after a painful family argument nearly a decade ago, leaving behind unanswered letters and an empty room Benjamin never allowed anyone to enter. Money had purchased everything except peace. And lately, something far more unsettling than loneliness had settled inside the mansion. Things disappeared. Important documents were no longer where he left them. Doors were mysteriously found open in the mornings. Security cameras briefly lost their signal at odd hours. Nothing valuable was ever taken. It felt less like someone wanted to steal from him, and more like someone wanted him to notice they had been there. His advisors blamed faulty memory. The security company blamed aging equipment. Benjamin believed neither. So he created his own test. Each night, he pretended to fall asleep, hoping to discover who was quietly entering his bedroom. Instead, a little girl had walked in. Not a thief. Not an intruder. A child determined to do the right thing. The girl's mother, Grace Carter, had worked as Benjamin's housekeeper for nearly 3 years. She arrived before sunrise. Left after sunset. Never complained. Never asked for special treatment. When childcare unexpectedly fell through that week, Benjamin's estate manager reluctantly allowed Grace to bring her daughter, Emma, to work for a few days. Benjamin had barely noticed the little girl. Until tonight. Still pretending to sleep, he watched Emma carefully examine the medicine bottle she had taken from beneath his pillow. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "This isn't yours." Benjamin nearly opened his eyes. The bottle was supposed to contain the sleeping medication prescribed by his physician. Only 3 people knew where he kept it. His doctor. His personal assistant. And Benjamin himself. So how did Emma know something wasn't right? Just then, footsteps echoed through the hallway. Emma became alert. She wasn't worried about waking Benjamin. She seemed to be listening for someone else. With remarkable care, she slipped the bottle into her sweater pocket. Then she replaced it with another bottle that looked almost identical. Benjamin's pulse quickened. She had brought a second bottle. Prepared in advance. Who had trusted a 4-year-old with such an important task? Before Benjamin could move, the bedroom door slowly creaked open. A long shadow stretched across the polished floor. Emma quietly stepped beside the large side table, holding her stuffed rabbit close as she remained out of sight. A man entered the room. Benjamin recognized the polished shoes immediately. It was his trusted personal assistant, Victor Hale. The man who had managed Benjamin's schedule for 11 years. Victor walked directly toward the bed. His attention wasn't on Benjamin. It was fixed on the bottle beneath the pillow. Benjamin fought every instinct to sit up. Instead, he remained perfectly still. Victor reached beneath the pillow. And frowned. He picked up the replacement bottle. His confident expression slowly faded. Carefully, he scanned the room. His eyes settled on the space beside the side table. Exactly where Emma was quietly waiting. Victor's expression turned cold. It was no longer the reassuring face Benjamin had trusted for over a decade. It was the face of a man who had just realized someone else knew far more than expected. And as Victor took one slow step toward the side table, the bedroom door behind him clicked shut on its own. The sudden click echoed through the bedroom. Victor froze. For the first time that night, uncertainty flickered across his face. Standing quietly beside the side table, Emma held her stuffed rabbit close. It slipped gently onto the polished floor, stopping just inches from Victor's polished shoes. His eyes followed it. A faint smile crossed his face. "There you are." Before Victor could take another step, Benjamin threw the blanket aside and sat upright. "Looking for someone?" Victor spun around. "Mr. Sterling," he said, forcing a smile. I thought you were asleep." "So did you," Benjamin replied, his voice calm and steady. Silence settled over the room. Victor quickly regained his composure. "I heard a noise, sir. I was only making sure everything was secure." Benjamin held his gaze. "At midnight?" Neither man looked away. Emma remained quietly where she was, watching every movement. After several long seconds, Victor straightened his jacket. "If everything is in order, I'll leave you to rest." Benjamin gave a slow nod, though every instinct told him not to let the man out of his sight. Victor paused at the doorway. His eyes drifted toward Emma for a brief moment. Then, without another word, he disappeared into the hallway. The bedroom door closed. The room remained silent until Benjamin finally spoke. "You can come over here now." Emma walked calmly toward him, picking up her stuffed rabbit along the way. Benjamin knelt until he was at her eye level. "You knew he was coming?" Emma nodded. "How?" Instead of answering immediately, she reached into her sweater pocket and handed Benjamin the bottle she had taken from beneath his pillow. He compared it with the replacement bottle still resting on the bed. From the outside, they looked exactly alike. He removed the caps. The tablets inside were different colors. A cold feeling settled over him. "My sleeping medicine," he whispered. Emma gently shook her head. "I don't think so." Benjamin looked at her. "What makes you say that?" She glanced toward the closed bedroom door before answering softly. "It isn't the same bottle." Her words were simple. Yet they carried remarkable certainty. Benjamin immediately reached for the bedside phone. Within minutes, the estate physician arrived. While they waited, Emma sat quietly in a large armchair, her feet swinging gently above the floor. Benjamin watched her with growing curiosity. Most children her age would have hidden behind an adult. Instead, Emma remained calm, thoughtfully watching the hallway as if she were putting together pieces of a puzzle. "You've seen Victor before tonight, haven't you?" Benjamin asked. Emma nodded. "Where?" "He talks when he thinks no one is listening." Benjamin leaned forward. "What did you hear?" Emma thought carefully before answering. "He said, the old man wouldn't be here much longer." Benjamin felt a chill run through him. Victor had worked beside him for 11 years. He knew Benjamin's business secrets. His financial records. His travel schedule. Even the location of the family safe. Hearing those words repeated by Emma gave them an entirely different meaning. A gentle knock interrupted the silence. The physician entered carrying a medical case. Benjamin handed him both bottles. "I need to know whether they're the same." The physician studied the labels. His expression changed almost immediately. "Where did these come from?" "My bedroom." He carefully examined one tablet from each bottle using a portable testing kit. Several quiet minutes passed. Finally, he looked up. His face had grown serious. "Mr. Sterling." Benjamin's stomach tightened. "What did you find?" "One bottle contains the medication your physician prescribed." He raised the second bottle. "This one contains a different sedative." Benjamin remained silent. The physician continued carefully. "If someone unknowingly took this over an extended period, it could cause severe drowsiness and dangerously slow breathing. In someone your age, the symptoms might easily be mistaken for a natural medical condition." The room became perfectly still. Benjamin slowly turned toward Emma. She hadn't simply noticed something unusual. Her careful observation may have protected his life. Before Benjamin could thank her, bright headlights swept across the bedroom windows. 3 black SUVs rolled slowly through the front gates of Sterling Manor. Benjamin frowned. "I wasn't expecting visitors." Emma stood and looked toward the window. She gently picked up her stuffed rabbit. Her thoughtful expression returned. "They're here," she said quietly. Benjamin turned toward her. "Who?" Emma met his eyes. "The people Mr. Victor has been expecting." Benjamin crossed the room in 3 long strides and pulled back the heavy curtains. 3 black SUVs rolled quietly to a stop in front of Sterling Manor. Their headlights remained on. No one stepped out. They simply waited. Benjamin immediately picked up his phone and called the head of estate security. No answer. He called a second guard. Nothing. Then a third. Silence. A cold feeling settled over the room. The security team had never ignored his calls. Never. He turned to the physician. "Stay with Emma. Lock this door. Don't open it for anyone except me." The doctor nodded. Benjamin stepped into the hallway. The mansion felt unusually quiet. The familiar overnight staff was nowhere to be seen. No footsteps. No voices. Only the distant ticking of the grandfather clock downstairs. Then he heard quiet movement farther down the corridor. Benjamin slipped behind a marble column just as Victor rounded the corner. The assistant wasn't alone. 2 unfamiliar men in dark suits followed a few steps behind him. "Search every room," Victor said calmly. "The girl found the wrong bottle. We need to find her before she tells Mr. Sterling anything else." Benjamin's heart pounded. This wasn't suspicion anymore. It was undeniable betrayal. For 11 years, Victor had stood beside him in boardrooms, hospitals, and family gatherings. Now he was searching for a little girl whose only mistake was noticing something others had missed. Benjamin waited until the men disappeared down another hallway before hurrying back to his bedroom. He opened the door. "Emma, we have to leave now." Grace looked up in surprise. She had arrived only moments earlier after receiving an urgent call from the physician. One look at Benjamin's face was enough. Without asking questions, she took Emma's hand. The 4 quickly made their way through a narrow servants' passage built decades earlier inside the walls of the estate. Benjamin hadn't walked through it since he was a boy. Dust covered the stone floor. Old lanterns hung from weathered hooks. The hidden passage finally opened into the manor's long-abandoned greenhouse. For the first time that night, everyone paused to catch their breath. Then Emma stopped walking. She looked toward an old wooden bench covered with climbing vines. Something had caught her attention. Benjamin noticed. "What is it?" Emma pointed quietly. There. Benjamin brushed away years of dust beneath the bench. His hand struck metal. A small rusted lockbox. I've never seen this. The old lock had almost rusted shut. Using a loose iron rod, Benjamin carefully pried it open. Inside rested a single envelope. Across the front, written in faded blue ink, were 6 unforgettable words. For Benjamin, if I disappear. Benjamin's breath caught. He recognized the handwriting instantly. It belonged to his son. Michael. The son who had vanished 9 years earlier without a trace. With trembling hands, Benjamin unfolded the aging letter. The first sentence stole the air from his lungs. Dad, if you're reading this, it means I was right not to trust Victor. Grace covered her mouth. The physician stared in disbelief. Benjamin continued reading. Michael explained that years earlier he had uncovered unusual financial transfers hidden inside one of the company's overseas divisions. At first, he believed it was accounting fraud. But the deeper he investigated, the more names appeared. Executives. Lawyers. Powerful investors. And one name appeared again and again. Victor Hale. Michael had quietly confronted him. Soon afterward, anonymous warnings began arriving. He realized the corruption reached far beyond the company. The safest way to protect both himself and his father was to disappear while secretly gathering evidence. Benjamin's vision blurred. For nearly a decade, he had believed his son had walked away in anger. Instead, Michael had sacrificed everything to protect him. A tear rolled down Benjamin's cheek. Emma gently placed her small hand in his. He never stopped caring about you, she said softly. Benjamin looked at her in surprise. What makes you believe that? Emma hesitated. Then she reached inside her stuffed rabbit. Benjamin watched as she carefully removed a tiny flash drive hidden inside a small stitched pocket. I was told to keep this safe, she said. My grandpa said to give it only to the man in the picture. Benjamin stared at the flash drive. What picture? Emma unfolded a photograph. It showed Benjamin standing beside Michael more than 10 years earlier, both smiling proudly at the camera. Benjamin looked toward Grace. You've never seen this? Grace slowly shook her head. I had no idea it was there. Emma looked back at Benjamin. My grandpa said, if the wrong people arrived first, they would ask about the medicine before asking about you. Benjamin felt another chill. He slowly looked at Emma. Emma. Who is your grandfather? The little girl opened her mouth to answer. Just then, the greenhouse windows suddenly shattered inward as something struck the glass from outside. Everyone instinctively stepped back. Dark silhouettes appeared beyond the broken windows, surrounding the greenhouse in complete silence. The sound of breaking glass echoed through the greenhouse. Grace instinctively guided Emma behind an old planting table. The physician motioned for Benjamin to step back as the last pieces of glass settled onto the stone floor. Outside, several men quietly surrounded the greenhouse. Moments later, Victor stepped through the open entrance. His calm expression suggested he believed everything was under control. It's over, Mr. Sterling, he said evenly. Hand me the flash drive, and we can settle this peacefully. Benjamin stepped forward, keeping Emma safely behind him. For 11 years, he said, I trusted you. Victor gave a faint shrug. Trust is often the easiest thing to earn, and the easiest thing to misuse. Benjamin looked directly into his eyes. My son knew who you really were. For the first time that night, Victor's confident expression faded. So, you found Michael's letter. Benjamin nodded. He never abandoned me. Victor let out a slow breath. No. He simply learned too much. Emma quietly reached for Benjamin's hand. Victor noticed. Bring me the flash drive. No one moved. Benjamin calmly took another step forward. If you want it, you'll have to come through me. Victor smiled. Before either man could say another word, distant sirens echoed across the estate. Victor turned toward the sound. A helicopter appeared overhead. Its bright searchlight swept across Sterling Manor before illuminating the greenhouse. The men outside exchanged uncertain glances. Victor's confidence disappeared. Benjamin allowed himself a quiet smile. You underestimated one person. Victor looked back. Who? My son. A powerful voice echoed from outside. Federal agents. Stay where you are. Within moments, investigators and federal officers surrounded the greenhouse from every direction. Several of Victor's associates immediately surrendered. Others attempted to leave but were quickly stopped outside the estate. Victor turned toward a rear doorway. Before he could disappear, someone stepped into his path. He looked older than Benjamin remembered. A neatly trimmed beard framed his face. A small scar rested along one cheek. But Benjamin recognized him instantly. Michael? The man smiled. Hello, Dad. For a long moment, neither father nor son spoke. 9 years of unanswered questions filled the silence between them. Then Benjamin crossed the room and embraced his son. Neither cared who was watching. Years of misunderstanding melted away in a single hug. Nearby, officers escorted Victor away without further resistance. As he passed Benjamin, Victor quietly said, "You finally found the truth." Benjamin met his eyes. "No. My son protected it until the right moment." The investigation that followed uncovered one of the largest financial corruption schemes in the company's history. The flash drive Emma had carefully protected contained encrypted records, financial transactions, recordings, and documents Michael had spent years collecting. It became the missing piece investigators needed. Victor and everyone involved were brought to justice through the legal process. For Benjamin, however, the greatest victory wasn't recovering his company. It was getting his family back. A few weeks later, the long-locked bedroom that had belonged to Michael was opened once again. Not as a reminder of loss, but as a symbol of a new beginning. Father and son spent countless evenings talking. Sometimes they laughed about old memories. Sometimes they quietly reflected on the years they had lost. Neither tried to change the past. Instead, they chose to build a better future together. Benjamin made another life-changing decision. Grace was no longer simply his housekeeper. She became a trusted member of the Sterling household. Emma's kindness, quick thinking, and remarkable courage had protected his life, reunited his family, and helped reveal a truth that had remained hidden for years. To honor her, Benjamin established the Emma Carter Courage Scholarship, supporting children who demonstrate exceptional kindness, honesty, and compassion toward others. One peaceful evening, the family gathered on the front porch of Sterling Manor. Benjamin watched Emma laugh as she chased butterflies across the garden, her beloved stuffed rabbit tucked beneath one arm. He smiled warmly. "You know," he said, "I spent most of my life believing great fortunes changed the world." Michael looked toward Emma. "They don't." Benjamin nodded. "Great hearts do. Sometimes the person who changes everything isn't the richest, the strongest, or the most powerful. Sometimes it's a little girl who quietly chooses kindness when no one is watching. Because true courage isn't about being fearless. It's about doing what's right, even when the outcome is uncertain." If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes kindness can still change lives. And tell us in the comments, what lesson from Emma's story stayed with you the most?